Living between Wednesdays, just trying to get by to the next fix. Living between Wednesdays, prefer the comics over the Netflix.
What's up, folks? I'm your host Konrad on Wednesday Night Reviews, and today I'm joined by Mike Rooth, an amazing Canadian creator of comics. Mike, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Oh, my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, Mike, as mentioned, you're going to do some drawing for us while we're chatting. So, if you want to flip over, go for it. And while you do that, just easy opening question: who is Mike Rooth?
Who is Mike Rooth? All right, well, hold on. I'll switch my camera over and I'll join you at my drawing table. Let's see what Mike Rooth's all about. All right. Mike Rooth is a Canadian freelance illustrator, an art mercenary. I've been working as an artist and surviving as an artist since the mid-90s. I live in Oakville with my beautiful wife, Erica, who's an extremely talented illustrator, designer, jewelry maker, dancer, copywriter, just a multi-talent. I'm the one-trick pony of the two of us. We have two amazing cats, Bear and Rama. And we live in a really weird little quiet corner of Oakville, and we both work from home as often as we can. And it's an interesting freelance creative life. It's all I've known for the past 25 some years now. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
I gotta ask. So, me doing what I do, speaking to all the people I speak with, I've had a range of people who they went to art school. Some people went to other higher education, and then got into comics. Some folks just went into comics. What was the Mike Rooth School of Comics? How did you get into it?
Oh, man. Well, probably my earliest days drawing, which are my very earliest memories, before the age of 5. My mother used to draw, she used to copy drawings from comic books that I would have smuggled out of my neighbor's house. She would draw Iron Man or Spider-Man or The Thing, things like that. And she knew I loved that stuff, and she was actually very, very good at it. And so that's kind of where it began for me, the love of comics. The desire to do it began years later when, I'd still ask my mom to draw for me as I got older, but eventually my little brother came along, and she had to take care of him as a baby. So I ended up just doing a lot of drawing on my own and experimenting on my own, and kind of just was really strongly encouraged by my mom to keep going. And it was a good distraction for me, and it was a good outlet for me. I was not an athletic kid, and I grew up in a very hockey, lacrosse featured kind of heavy sports town. All the schools were very sports oriented. So I was a classic kind of, ginger misfit from the portly ginger misfit who'd show up. We moved a lot as when I was a kid too, so
okay.
I was only ever out of school for like a year and a half or whatever kind of thing. Anyway, I'm rambling. I always stuck with art, and art became kind of a focus for me all through school, and I always tried to be that art kid in the class, and then eventually got to high school, and just did some I had a great high school experience with art, found a really great, a lot of encouragement again, and a huge studio to work with. And then, I always wanted to go to Sheridan College, and that's the local college around here. Well, I grew up in St. Catharines, but it was, it was the be all end all. Yeah, I grew up in St. Catharines. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I when I age 1 to age 12, I was Linwell Road. And then beyond that, it was Smythe Street up near Hartselle.
Oh, man.
Which neck of the woods are you from?
Oh, that's funny, man. When I first moved there, we lived on off of Linwell. We lived Whedon Street, which was a townhouse complex there. I believe it's still there. And, and then we moved to Dorchester, which was off of Bunting Road.
Yeah.
Where I met some of my best friends that I still remain in touch with, those that are still with us. And and then I went to downtown. I moved to Russell Avenue, kind of closer to downtown core. And I went to Collegiate, and So, and Collegiate was, Collegiate was terrifying, the experience for me. at first because I thought for sure it was going to be a very sports heavy team and a sports heavy school rather. And I was so relieved and so because I was kind of a nervous kid, you know, and I was so relieved to discover that it was actually a very arts focused school. Yep. And for all of our success that school had in sports and wrestling and football and all that, we actually had a really extensive art program with really incredible working artists as our teachers. So it was incredible. I felt so blessed to have gone to that school. Yeah, so I always kind of like wanted to do, I guess, art, and then eventually like had to get to the college level, and I you know, my parents couldn't afford to send me, so I had to apply for student loans. But back then it was a lot more complicated. You know, I eventually had to move out of my parents' house just to show that I could prove that I could be an adult and that I could function in society and have a hydro bill and all these sorts of things. So I was delayed going to college for a few years until I was finally approved for a student loan. And then I eventually went to, you know, Sheridan College, the interpretive illustration program, which is the same program I met my wife in, actually. She was she started a year later than I did.
Okay.
Yeah, so anyway, but going to that school actually took me away from comics because, you know, comics was a thing I always wanted to do, but at that time, like in the mid 90s, comics were kind of on their bellies dying, you know, in a lot of ways. Marvel was tanking, and, you know, there's a lot of stuff that was just kind of choking on the, you know, just choking at the comic shops. And, you know, that's back before, you know, like Marvel sold Spider-Man to Sony and all that stuff, and the films came and all that business. So it was a different time, and I was deemed to be basically no good to make comics. And my instructors all kind of talked me out of that, and maybe they did me a favor in a way looking back, because I did get to have the experience of working for basically every other corner of the illustration market that wasn't comics related. The comics always remained a part of my destiny and a part of something I wanted to be a part of. And I ended up having a fairly extensive career drawing children's books for Rubicon Publishing here in Oakville, Ontario.
Oh, cool.
They did a lot of I actually did 44 graphic novels. I know that sounds like a ridiculous number, but I did 44 graphic novels between 2004 and 2007. 2007, 2010. And I had a full-time contract where I basically just drew books for these folks. And it was awesome. It was graphic novels. There was a lot of boring historical content, but it was, you know, it was a great way to learn about comics and learn about making comics, even though it wasn't stuff you'd go and buy in the store. These were for Scholastic and for books like that, textbook, things of that nature. So anyway, eventually that job ended, and it ended quite abruptly and quite suddenly. And I was 35 years old, and I had a bunch of health problems that have suddenly become a very big part of my reality. And I was like, you know what, man? I have waited my whole life to actually chase after something and go after comics, and I'm going to just do it full time, and that's it. And I ended up just going after it by virtue of the fact that I kind of had a full-time job as the superintendent of the building here. And it wasn't a high-paying job, but I didn't have to worry about my rent or my hydro bill for the 7 years that I did the job. It was a miserable, thankless nightmare job that ruined my body, killed my knees, and destroyed my back. But, you know, it kept the lights on while I dreamed of being a comic book artist, and while I extended myself out to try to find you know, ways and means to get published and to start to build a reputation as someone who could deliver work on time and deliver good work and maybe something a little bit different. And I strove for that, and thankfully I was able to meet really awesome creators by going to Comic Cons and exhibiting at different shows, and you know, just introducing myself to creators that I loved, whose books I read, and said, man, I'd love to do a pinup for your book, and I don't know what it would take, but if you just let me do something, I'll do something awesome for you, you know. And you know, I never got paid for any of that work, but the payment was them saying, yeah, man, we love your stuff, draw something for our book, that'd be wicked. Nice. You know, and so that was the huge payoff for me. And then I I never minded because I mean, getting published in such a competitive place, especially a place where, again, I had been educated and kind of told that I was no good at it, and I should probably give up my dreams of being an illustrator in comics. You know, it was a, yeah. Anyway, that's my kind of story for getting into comics, just getting pinups, and then eventually those would morph into cover gigs, and then eventually I started getting the attention of retailers and different bigger collectors who wanted, who wanted bigger pieces or bigger commissions, and we're starting to build a huge body of work, thousands and thousands of drawings, sketch covers, drawings on beer coasters, drawings on whatever, just yeah, literally just did every kind of work there was, and I never said no to a job for the first 15 years of my career.
Nice.
I just, getting published was the ultimate goal, and the paycheck didn't matter because the payoff was the print. The payoff was getting it and got a copy in the mail and being able to send a copy to my mom, and say, look, there's my name next to this drawing I did. That kind of stuff never goes away from me. That kind of pride and, I don't know. I remember where it came from, and I remember why I love to draw and where it started. So, yeah. Anyway,
I think that's beautiful, and you know what? Like, the fact that you are so incredibly driven and just, especially if you for 15 years you just went, "What's the job? Cool, let's do it."
Yeah.
I am certain that you were exposed to so many things doing that you otherwise just wouldn't have been.
Oh man, big time.
Oh yeah. So you just kind of covered a lot, which is fantastic. I personally, my partner will be outrageously upset at me if I don't ask. When you were at collegiate, was your art teacher there Wakalich?
Yeah, man, Perry Wakalich. Perry Wakalich was also a genius wrestling coach.
Yep.
He was a brilliant sculptor, one of the most sensational and talented sculptors I've ever seen, and just a wonderfully kind man. And I actually really miss the guy. I haven't seen him since probably since 1995 or something like that, 1996. He was amazing, and I was a terrible athlete, but I wanted to be a wrestler so bad. It was either going to be a pro wrestler or I was going to be an artist, and I was just a phenomenally poor athlete, and I had to give up the dream. But Wakalich was an amazing coach, despite the fact I never, and I'm probably the only person who can say this in collegiate history, I never won a single match on a year and a half on the wrestling team. I eventually gave it up because I had to get braces for a kind of a fairly severe dental issue that had to be corrected, and I ended up getting my face all gored apart every time I'd wrestle with people. And I was a heavy kid. I wasn't strong for my size, and so I'd be going up against guys who looked like they were built like in a prison. Yep. Like they'd be 167, 168 pounds or whatever, and I would look like teenage Mick Foley, and they would look like Ken Shamrock, and I would just get completely destroyed because we were in the same weight class, And
yep.
I was a dreadful, dreadful athlete. It was my dad, bless him, would come to the matches and just watch me lose, and eventually I just said, I'm done, man. I can't bear this any longer. The team wasn't very supportive. The team were all a bunch of, I don't want to swear on the show, but the team were not the most welcoming because they were all fantastic athletes, and they were all put on this earth. They were all put on this earth to wrestle. But I wrestled with some great athletes from that school, and we had Marty Calder actually would come, the Olympic wrestler Marty Calder would give us occasional lessons. I still love the cross ankle that he taught me. I would use that in a fight if I had to. Yeah, I mean, Perry was always, Mr. Wakalich was always so kind and amazing to me. I had him, and also Brian Verhoeks was the teacher there. Okay. He was the kind of the director of the whole art program then. Mr. Nishi was the photographer. The great Mr. Humphreys was the photography teacher. Man, yeah, we were spoiled. We had incredibly talented people teaching us at that school.
You know what? Like, for me, I was in collegiate. Oh God, when would it have been? 20. I guess. Oh God, when would it have been? 2011 through, I guess 2014 or 15.
Okay.
And so I had Perry Wakalich and my partner, who's basically an artist as well. Like she's got she went on to higher education to do art as well as teaching. So
awesome.
she also was taught by Wakilich, and then later on when she did her practicum for teaching, that's where she did it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so it's just super cool. And yeah, I took wrestling with him as well. Fantastic time. So totally agree. And for the folks out there in YouTube land, if you happen to be in the Niagara region, if you go to Port Dalhousie in St. Catharines, there is a sculpture of a rower, and Wakilich made that.
And I'm so happy they repaired it, because I remember some son of a bitch snapped the arms off years
No.
ago. Or was it snap the arms off or snap the... So it broke it anyway, and it was just awful. Because I remember, oh man, the sculptures that guy would do. I remember he had a show at Rodman Hall, and he had these little tiny pieces, and it was all around the time when his wife was, I think his wife was expecting their first son, their first child. I don't know if he had more beyond that. I knew he had at least one on the way. I think he had two, maybe a son and a daughter. But anyway, I remember they did these marvelous little figurative sculptures of this dancing woman who was like a female form that was like 9 months pregnant, dancing.
Cool.
Just incredible little pieces. And oh man, the guy was just unbelievably good. I really hope he's well and healthy. I thought he was fantastic, man. Yeah, awesome guy.
Well, last I heard, he was doing very well. We've been chatting quite a bit here. I can't not draw attention to the Swamp Thing that you're drawing.
Yes.
Actually, this kind of rolls well into my next question. So, I've always met you through cons. I think the first time I'd ever heard your name or seen you was at either Fan Expo or Toronto Comic Con a couple years back now.
Yeah.
And Swamp Thing specifically, I now have a cover of Swamp Thing that you've made.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I did want to ask, and I've kind of asked this at a con once already, but for the folks out there, how do you come up with Swamp Thing like that? How do you draw him without pre-planning? Like, you're pretty well doing this free form. I don't see any pencils on that page.
Yeah, so one of the things I've been doing to relax, and I've been doing this for a few years now, and it ties into Swamp Thing a little bit, is this is actually just an accessory from a Swamp Thing action figure. I got the big someone got me, my buddy Andreas got me this badass action figure, and so I have this accessory which is like a spear hand kind of thing, and I would never bother to I have it on my desk, but this would just be a piece of clutter, and I'm like, well, no, nothing's ever a piece of clutter. You can always do something with something. So I actually did a series of illustrations for Inktober one year where I was just drawing with found objects, and I made a book. Actually, I can show some of the book here. I don't have many copies of it. I probably don't have any copies.
Whoa.
It's called Still Good for Something. And all the drawings inside were drawn by different found objects. So we have, like, this Swamp Thing was drawn with a dried dead daisy. This one was drawn with a cedar twig. This one was drawn with a burdock burr. This one was drawn with a seed pod. This one was drawn with a feather. And just, this one was drawn with a plastic bread bag tie.
What?
This one was drawn with a chestnut skin. This one was drawn with a cannabis leaf.
Nice.
And a cannabis stem. This one was drawn with a piece of wire I found outside on the sidewalk. This one was drawn with a milkweed pod. This one was drawn with a black-eyed Susan flower bud. This one was drawn with an acorn. This one was drawn with a fish vertebrae. This one was drawn with a jawbone. This one was drawn with a brake light, an old brake light
Okay, that's cool.
So basically, if you can dip something in ink and drag it around on the page, you can make any kind of a mark, and you might make something that's kind of surprising. And when you've been working as an illustrator for as long as I have, you're basically an art robot for people. Making art and making illustrations are two different things, because the artist is not the person that is hired to do the artwork for the illustration project. The illustrator is hired. It's different when you're doing comics, because as a comic, you're an artist, you're a storyteller. But my training is I'm an illustrator. I wanted to draw covers. I wanted to draw books. I wanted to draw that kind of stuff. And so I have to tap into the artists sometimes and remind the artists that you have to explore and you have to grow and you have to sometimes give yourself disadvantages in order to achieve new and exciting results. Because, man, drawing the same piece of chain link fence or the same piece of chainmail or, you know, the same costume over and over again, the same annoying face, whatever it is in a comic book job, that's the kind of stuff that is that just becomes the work. It's rare when you can just sit down and actually explore a different way of doing something. And I can't control the results of this, so I don't have any expectations about what I'm drawing right now. I just know that I think more clearly when I draw. It's like when I go to visit my parents or something. I don't see them very often, but when I do, very often I sit with a sketchbook out on the table when we're sitting around talking. And it's not because I'm trying to be rude or I don't want to look at their faces or anything like that. It's because I just, I don't know. I feel normal when I'm drawing. If that makes sense. But anyway, yeah. Kind of went on a little thing there, but
no, you know what? I love it because as you were prepping to start drawing there, I saw you bring out that red container, and I'd seen that thing in your hand, and I was like,
"Oh yeah,
not like a paintbrush I've ever seen before. What the hell is that?"
This is just a lid to probably what used to be a little peanut butter jar or something like that. I don't let things like that go to waste either. I use them all as palettes and things like that. I'll use the same one for years, you know, stuff like that. I don't know. I have a real problem with waste. I don't have a lot of space, so thankfully I haven't reached full blown hoarder yet. You know what I mean in that regard. But yeah, you know, I try to keep stuff that's useful. I keep action figures and junk like that, accessories, battle axes, little things like, you know. Thor's hammer can be a pain in the ass to draw from certain angles, so I got this keychain that I just hold in my hand, and I can turn it at any angle and get all the reference I need for the, you know, for whatever I need, right? So yeah, you know, it's make our own fun. I try to make my own fun, I guess, and keep art interesting by doing little projects like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, talking about art projects and some of your work here, you did recently just have a very successful Kickstarter for your book, Dodge.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about Dodge?
So Dodge is a comic I've been working on since 2018. It was written by Matt Nixon, who wrote Conan. He also wrote Wolverine years ago for Marvel, and he's also known for doing his book Retcon, which was, I believe I have one of the singles around here somewhere in a big mess. Hold on, I got the trade paperback here. Retcon is his book, and so Dodge is actually the prequel to Retcon.
Okay.
Retcon stars a group of soldiers, special ordnance removal, you know, kind of soldiers. It's almost like I hate to oversimplify it and say it like this, but it's almost like G.I. Joe meets Hellboy. They're soldiers that take on paranormal, you know, enemies and threats of the earth. Like they were called in this book, you know, they reference a photograph where, you know, they were called to fight Saddam to you know, during the Gulf War to, you know, for the you know, to stop him because he had weapons of mass destruction. But the weapons of mass destruction he had in this story is that he had a genie.
Okay.
This kind of thing, like he has this omnipotently powerful ancient spirit as his tool. So all the soldiers have different kind of you know, abilities. And one of the characters that you meet in the story is of Retcon is a character named Chris the Animal Dodge, and this is actually the first issue with Dodge here.
Nice.
It was drawn. I finished it in 2018. It was printed in 2020. We printed issue 2 in 2021. We're going to be printing issue 3 this year. It's we wanted to have it out on a tighter schedule, but you know, with the pandemic really kind of pulled the rug out on a few things. It also sparked us to get this project finished and to put it into high gear because there wasn't a whole lot of anything else happening, and it was like this is either the worst time to produce an indie comic or the best time. So we just rolled with it, you know, and you know, luckily I've been able to have some other gigs on the side to kind of pull in, keep the lights on again. I'm not the superhero anymore, so it's you know, now I'm just living purely on what I'm able to earn from art and you know, cover art and gigs like this. So it's not always an easy easy race to the end of the month, but you know what? We've been doing okay lately, and it's been all right. So yeah.
Beautiful. So,
Yeah.
as I mentioned, the Kickstarter campaign is over. It's fully funded. I've
Yes.
happened to be looking at it. You've got like, I think your goal was $3,500. You've got 7,080. So you've blown way past that finish line.
Yeah, we almost hit. I thought we hit 300% at one point. It may have been adjusted right at the end. I'm not sure. That happens sometimes with Kickstarters, but
okay.
but yeah, it it was an amazing thing, and the support we got from the people that not only came back for issue 3, but the people that supported us for issue 1 and 2, and were able to the new people who were able to snag issue 1 and 2 with the Kickstarter for number 3. And yeah, it's been a blast. Like, Matt's taken this to some pretty interesting places. The first book features mainly flashback stuff from Vietnam, with the crew in Vietnam facing, werewolves and a threat that has kind of reared its head again in the 80s, where you meet them again and they're in Siberia and they're much older and they're kind of dealing with similar enemies, and now he's taken us into some pretty fantastic places with issue 3. I think it's only going to be a 4-issue series, but I know he has plans for some other stuff afterwards, so I'm curious to see where it's going to go. But I love the character, and I've really kind of made the character my own in a lot of ways. Matt gave me full reign to draw him how I want, and he's basically he's a commando that turns into a werebear. He wears a Black Sabbath t-shirt.
Love it.
He's just an M60. I mean, it's a party, man.
I love it.
Thanks. Yeah, so it's been good. We wanted to capture that vibe from the 90s, the 80s and 90s comic The Nom from Marvel.
Oh, okay.
They were also released in magazine format, and we were thinking, that black and white style format originally, but we got Carolyn Lasco coloring for us, and she's doing great work, and we got the great Matt Krotzer doing the lettering on the book, and that guy is just fantastic. He letters a lot of local Toronto people's work too, actually. He's kind of all over the place. His work is amazing. And a good letterer is something that I have the highest respect for, because I am not a person that wields fonts with any kind of thunder or authority. I'm married to a designer who does, thankfully, but I'm pretty much useless when it comes to text. But I'll draw any kind of monster you want. So
fair enough. And you know what? I totally agree. I think letters are definitely sort of the unsung heroes,
big time,
along with editors. Because they could make or break books. Some books I've fallen in love with over lettering. So yeah. Thank you for shouting them out. So actually, you know what? Follow-up question for Dodge. As I understand it, you've done the interiors for that book as well, correct?
Yes, I have. Yep.
So is that the first book where you've done, besides the plethora of graphic novels you've done previously for the other publishing houses, is that your first, I don't want to call it serious comic, but you know what I mean? Like, is it the first time you've done interiors for a regular comic, I guess?
Yeah, it's so I have done interiors before with other companies. Like I did 6 pages of Captain Canuck back in 2016. I did a 10-page graphic novel for Connor McCreary for Fubar. It was an amazing little Viking story that took place in the north of Newfoundland with the Beothuk people. And a really amazing little myth that he wrote, because all the Fubar books are zombie books. So those gave me a nice little chunk of published comic book cred as an interior artist.
Okay.
But yeah, Dodge is my first series that's just purely mine. Matt discovered me through Aftershock Comics, because I was doing a ton of covers for them for the Animosity story, which is all about animals sort of turning on humanity. And so I got to draw a lot of ferocious dogs and things like that. And he saw that work and decided that would be a good fit for Dodge. So he reached out to me via the guys at Aftershock and kind of got the ball rolling. And I actually, at the time, I actually quit my day job as the superintendent to do it full time, because I wanted to just kind of take the training wheels off, take the safety off, and basically just kind of ride wild into this full-time comic book art thing, and it did not go exactly as I hoped. Mainly because the guy who was supposed to replace me as the super quit on the first day and handed back his keys. So I had to keep on being the super for the next 5 months while working on Dodge, and it really jacked things up horribly for me. And then, the replacement for the job, who did eventually replace me, turned out to be basically a criminal, and it was a terrible situation to be living across the hall from. And we didn't feel safe or anything here. So it was Dodge was created in a weird crucible of pain and fear and a lot of financial uncertainty. I was selling my comics when I did finally get the step down from being the super. And I kept on drawing Dodge, and it was kind of awesome. But it was tough. So luckily I was still getting cover gigs here and there and making ends meet that way. But yeah, man, it was it was a little bit nuts. So
Definitely sounds it. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was a little bit crazy, but Matt's been really patient and really awesome. And when we saw the success of the first Kickstarter, we were thrilled. We didn't quite hit 200% on that, but we hit the funding in the first day, which was for us a major thing we weren't expecting. And then the second Kickstarter did even better, and we hit over 200%. I think we did about 212%. And then, I know we crossed over the 310 or 315% crossover at one point in issue 3. And I'm really excited because the script for issue 4 I know is going to be incredible. I'm just sort of wrapping up. I'm actually working on the cover. I'm doing a special wraparound cover for issue 3, kind of last minute. We had a bit of a change in schedule with a variant cover that we had lined up for the third issue. So I've just had to do the variant cover myself, as I did for the first, the second issue. And I'm doing kind of an homage to a famous old Marvel comic. And I don't really like homages, but there's so many opportunities with Dodge where it's been kind of fun. Have a little bit of fun with political stuff. I don't know. I think people are going to dig it.
Beautiful. I'm glad to hear it. When it comes to interiors, I did want to ask, so the drawing you're doing is extremely detailed. You're getting in there doing all sorts of line work and shading to create a lot of really dense effects for Swamp Thing's sort of back of his head and his neck there. What's the difference from yourself, especially where you've done a lot of cover work now? What's the difference between a cover and an interior? Like, what process-wise for you?
Yeah, the process for interiors is it's way different. I'll bring up some interiors to show you. I have the black and white originals here.
Just don't get in trouble. Don't
show something you shouldn't. These are from previous issues, so it's
okay.
Just pull my camera down a bit there. We have the original pages of Dodge here, and I actually go to the extreme with my detail. Probably, I'm gonna see if that's maybe a little better. Maybe that's a little better. I actually don't. It's a tough thing to learn, but I very often will get into situations where I don't know when to stop rendering or when to stop adding detail. And so what happens is a lot of my pages end up looking like panels that are all individual covers in terms of the polish on them. Yeah. And that's something I've always tried to like here's a big splash page, like, but there's a lot of detail and a lot of it is tiny figures and a lot of jail settings and just this kind of stuff. So the interiors were mental to draw on this. They were really a challenge. When you're a cover artist, you only have one job. The job is to sell the book. It's to make an impact with an image so someone will pause in the comic book store and pick it up, and regardless of what it is, they'll want to buy it. Interiors are a different thing altogether, and I need to take them. I think I need to take them a little bit less seriously because I'm not fast at them, first of all. Second of all, I don't know. There's always a million different solutions to a page and how to set the pace and how to direct the eye and how to direct the viewer's attention. And I can never decide. I really struggle with deciding on how to do it, and I end up. I don't know. I don't know. I have a lot of learning to do. Even though I've done so many graphic novels, The difference was when I was doing them for Scholastic, they would give me a fully laid out PDF, and they would tell me what to draw on each box. Very often it was historical stuff, so it was reference from the library or reference from old books and old politicians or moments in Canadian history or things like this. A lot of Indigenous stuff as well, which was amazing, but not without its challenges. So yeah, I did a lot of art robot work where I literally just filled the box. They would do all the text and layout, and I would just simply be the machine that drew the pictures in the box. So when you have the freedom to design your own page, and Matt's really clear with his instructions, like he's very good. I'm a huge fan of the guy, and I'm a huge fan of his writing style. His scripts make me howl with laughter. And what's funny about it is very often the script that I'm given is like an early draft. So by the time I draw the book and the book comes out in print, he's changed a lot of the dialogue and stuff.
Oh, wow.
So it's really kind of like, and he makes amazing choices, like, don't get me wrong, but it's funny because a lot of my body language and expressions and things like that I draw are informed by that first draft that I read. Kind of etches like stone in my head, and then I've just kind of locked in. And but it's interesting to see, how it jives with the new words when they come in.
I bet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But yeah, so that's the difference really. The cover just has one job, one story to tell. Try to get as much info that you need to get across, and also make something cool, maybe something original, something. I've done a ton of homage covers and I don't enjoy them, but once in a while it just fits perfectly, and it's worth doing, even if just to explore the idea. But yeah, doing something original that someone else might want to do an homage of one day down the road is ultimately the goal. You want to create those iconic images that become those things. I think, for me anyway, I want to do great covers. I don't want to do any half-assed covers. I want everything to look a certain way, and I don't always hit the mark I want to hit. I'm trying to go a little easier on myself with interior art because that's just hard, man. And the thing about interior art that's different is, you can spend 4 days figuring out the perspective on one complicated scene that takes place in an airport or something like that. And the viewer who reads the comic is spending 1.46 seconds viewing that panel and reading the text box in the panel or the balloon. And so, but the thing is, if that perspective isn't right, and if that work isn't done properly, then that 1 minute and 1.4 seconds or whatever they spend on that panel will be looking at how wrong it is. So you have to do the work regardless, and you have to just and some of those things are just demanding. Like Matt's not particularly cruel. I've worked for some pretty cruel writers who ask for some pretty cruel things in terms of the artist's ability to want to draw them or want to not hide under the bed until the job is over. But Matt's been very good, and I get lots of cool dynamic scenes to draw. So yeah, I'm pretty excited, man. I think people are gonna love this third issue too.
Fantastic. So, as I mentioned earlier, it's already concluded, so you can't go out now and support it, unfortunately. But if people wanted to get their hands on Dodge, say 1 to 3, because 3 is now fully funded and successful, what would be the best way to go about it?
So once we actually have the books printed, and we've given ourselves a fairly comfortable fulfillment term, just because there's been supply chain issues with printing of books and stuff that have plagued a lot of indie creators as well as a lot of big publishers. So there's been some issues around that. So we have the book completed. I'm just finishing up the last cover. The book still has to be lettered. The colors are coming in, and Carolyn's killing it. And hopefully by the middle of next month, the book will be ready to go to print. Nice. Which will then hopefully get a quick turnaround. Normally the turnaround is really, really quick, within 2 weeks to a month. So we're hoping by mid-July to have the physical books in hand. By this point, I'll have all of the fulfillment artwork that I'm doing for the Kickstarter supporters done. We'll have so by then we should have copies. We should be able to fulfill our Kickstarter orders, and then we'll have an idea how much stock we have. And at that point, I'll probably sell copies out of my shop, which is just mikeruth.bigcartel.com. Or Matt may have his shop open again, which I believe is just retcon.bigcartel.com. He may have mattnixon.com. I'm not sure. But once we have our fulfillment covered and we know what we have in terms of stock, yeah, we'll be able to hook people up with issues 1 through 3. There'll be second printings, I believe, of issue 1 and 2, because we kind of had to keep it low on the first 2 Kickstarters in terms of print run.
Yep.
But we might open it up a little bit more because we did so much better in the third one. We might be able to, we should be able to pay and fully cover the printing of issue 1 and 2 again. They'll be exactly as the first print was. Maybe I'll make a slight difference to mark them as the second printing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got an amazing guest artist coming in to do some covers. Do a cover for us for issue 4.
Love it.
And yeah, I'm pretty excited. I don't want to say who it is yet because we haven't revealed it on the Kickstarter yet. But I'm a big fan of his, and he's in the Toronto area, and he's an awesome dude. So I'm very excited about that.
Nice. Okay, question, because the way that you said that, it sounds like Kickstarter for Dodge number 4 is out there. Is that right?
No, it'll be happening. It'll be happening soon. Yeah, we're gonna have that. What I like to do is have the book mostly drawn before we do the Kickstarter. So in the case of Dodge is entirely drawn. I'm just kind of rehashing some inks on the first few pages because I'm not really happy with how they came out. I want to take another crack at them, and we have a bit of time because the other pages are still being colored. So I'm working on that, and I'm working on this new cover. But issue 3 is otherwise fully complete. I'll have the script for issue 4, and I'll probably draw that over the course of the fall. Once we have the Kickstarter for 3 fully fulfilled and everything's sorted by September, I'll go into full production for issue 4, and yeah, hopefully we can do a Kickstarter even by the end of the year or early in 2023, and wrap it up for 2023. Been a bit of a long journey on this one, but it's never been easy to do indie comics. It's especially with all the setbacks that COVID created, and also just my own personal crap that went sideways. It just happens. Life just happens sometimes, and you have to, you can feel bad about it all you want, but at the end of the day, the work's still got to get done, and you got to find a way around those hardships. But yeah, I've been really lucky the past couple of years because I've been working with Justin Steves of Big Country Comics, doing a lot of covers for him, retailer exclusives for him, and having a great time getting to do The Last Ronin and different things like that. Working on covers for that. I did the Swamp Thing cover for his store actually, which was a huge career bending thrill to be able to work on something like that. Yeah, I'm pretty spoiled to have a guy that gives me opportunities like that as often as he does. So yeah, that's been a great thing to have, and a great ace in the hole, so to speak. Yeah.
Absolutely. So here's a nice little question for you, because I'm wondering, when it comes to the creation of Dodge, obviously you've got all the pages you showed us. So you're very much so analog. When it comes to it being colored, lettered, all that kind of stuff, is it being fully done to your knowledge, like pen, paper, ink, or at some point is it getting scanned and digitized?
Oh yeah, so it's the colors are all handled digitally. I occasionally will hand paint the covers, but the interiors are all colored digitally by Carolyn, probably in Photoshop. She may be using Clip Studio as well. I'm not sure, but pretty sure she's using Photoshop. And then I'm not sure. Matt's using, I believe, probably like InDesign or Illustrator or something like that to do the lettering. Cool. But they both, Caroline can paint as well, analog. And I know that Matt can also, hand letter with the best of them as well. But yeah, we've handled Dodge. That part of Dodge has been handled digitally. My wife Erica actually is the one who does the layouts on the book when all the artwork and lettering and all the color files are complete, and we get all the pinups in from our friends. She puts it all together for us and has for the last 2 issues. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's been really cool. She's made some pretty cool little things that have become little, like she had this idea to have a little frontispiece on the first interior, like the interior cover, inside cover, and stuff like that. Little graphic design bits that she added that were really cool, and full credit given to all of the artists on the credit page. And
nice.
And yeah, it's just really, really nice production that she's put together. So yeah, I've been lucky to have her as a, as an amazing asset on the book. I wouldn't be anywhere in my career without my wife Erica. That's for sure.
Nice. Well, thank you, Erica. Absolutely. Then you know what? I do definitely want to ask, what are some of your favorite covers that you've gotten to do? Obviously, the Swamp Thing you mentioned.
Yeah, that was huge to be able to do that. That was a tremendous thrill. Though the really big, beautiful thing that happened out of that too was not only becoming kind of a part of the DC roster, which could lead anywhere. It could go nowhere. It could be the biggest thing ever. It could be nothing at all. But at least, to become part of that system, you got to get into part of the database. And if there's some writer out there that gets an opportunity to write a cool book and likes my work, they'll be able to look me up right in the DC database and find me as an available working artist. The beautiful thing about this cover for me was they let us go, and this was just an idea I floated at them when I handed in the rough sketches. The idea was, can we do the old retro graphics? Because I love the new graphics on the book. Don't get me wrong. The new logo is fantastic for the Swamp Thing that Rom V and Mike Perkins run is unbelievably good. It's so good. And I'm not just saying that because I got to do a cover for it. But the fact that they let me do the old retro graphic on that and the old DC bullet logo, I love. That was such a wonderful surprise because I didn't know that until the book was printed. And Justin and I got the email, and Justin's like, "Oh my God, dude!" And that was huge. This year's been really cool because not only have I had a chance to work on more than one Last Ronin cover, which has been an amazing story to be a part of, and it's such a tremendous honor because my fandom for the Turtles goes back to this book from 1986. This role-playing game book from Palladium Games. Which was the only thing that actually had the stats and additional content approved by Eastman and Laird, where you could, and the Palladium role-playing game system was brilliant. It was a wonderful, perfect system for role-playing. And yeah, they had a Turtles book, so you could actually get Casey Jones's stats and Shredder's stats. And this is the book that revealed that Raphael is the strongest turtle, and Donatello's the smartest turtle, and Leo's the most skilled, and they all had red headbands in those days. Anyway, it's just an awesome book. So I've been a fan of the Turtle stuff for such a long time, and I was always aware that the Last Ronin was a thing that might come down the road. So having a chance to work on these covers has just been a huge thrill. Another major thrill this year was getting hired to do the main covers on an entire series by Dynamite Comics. Ron Mars and Andy Lanning did this amazing book called Project Superpowers, and these are the first 2 issues that have come out, and I got to do all 5 issues. So that was, again, I feel incredibly blessed to, when you see the other variant covers on this book, they're fantastic. So the fact that they made my covers the main cover is just a huge feather in my cap. It was just a huge honor to have that happen. Anyway, I feel like I'm bragging now, but it's been a very good year in that regard. Getting recognized a little bit more by bigger publishers and bigger creators. Sorry, that's my haunted front door.
No problem.
But anyway, yeah, it's been a really good year. I've been really blessed to be able to work on these projects with Justin and also my friends at Yellow Snow Comics down in Boston, and Wicked Gator Comics. Like, I've gotten to do some variants for them this past year, and I'm very lucky. Anytime I get a cover gig, I always feel like it's why I was put here on Earth, and so it feels like, Aftershock's been keeping me hopping with covers 1 a month. I've been very, very lucky, very blessed.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad that the artist's life is in full steam for you. It's working out well. I did want to ask, now that you've worked for DC Dynamite Aftershock, I happen to notice in your Inktober sketchbook there you had a bunch of Hellboys. So are we going to hear from Dark Horse that Mike Rooth's been picked up for some variant covers on a Hellboy?
Oh man, you know what? That would be an amazing thing. I would so badly love to draw a Hellboy. That would be. I know a couple of guys. Michael Walsh has drawn Hellboy. I know Adam Hughes has. I'm one of those. I love Corbin's Hellboy. I'm one of those guys
Oh,
who's
yeah.
kind of like it's Mignola or nothing for me when it comes to Hellboy. But the guys I mentioned, they do fantastic work. Like Duncan Fegredo's work is unbelievable. Yeah, he's such a special character, man. I would love to do a Hellboy cover. I think we've come close to getting them. I think they're kind of tough to nail down. Like it's almost like a retailer needs to have some advance notice that there's going to be a Hellboy variant opportunity coming, because not every book gets them. Only certain books do. Like they were trying for years to get me on anything at DC that was that was a Swamp Thing related. So, it happened to be in an issue, like random issue 9, but it was still amazing. It was still so much fun, but yeah. Sorry, I got kind of wandered off there. Sorry.
No, that's perfect. You know what? What I do want to bring to people's attention, then, and I'll let you do it because you're definitely the expert on it at this point. Much like you're doing right now for me, you are a part of sort of a regular event show where you do exactly what you're doing now, and it at times goes to various causes.
Yeah.
So tell us about the show and what it is, how people can find it, how they can watch it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you asking about that. I'm a part of 2 groups. One of them is technically the first one was Sketchelmania, which is hosted by Martin Slam Duncan of Slam Press Tomes. I can't remember what he's called exactly. He had a Fastball Special is the name of his podcast, and he decided to host these Sketchelmania events, and using a lot of local talent. Like our first episode was Shane Heron and I. And yeah, we would just pick different charities and try to raise a bit of money and just kind of make up for the lack of shows and the lack of company and seeing each other because of the pandemic. It was a way of staying in touch and also a way of staying connected with the people that we'd normally chat with at our tables. And Martin provided this awesome little platform for us to do it. And he had a goal very shortly after we got started to raise $10,000 in the first year to different charities, Kids Help Phone, various indigenous causes. We've helped Cancer Society, Humane Society, different things like this. Some international relief stuff as well. And we blew right past the $10,000 in the first year. I think we've raised something like over 25 or 26,000 on that show so far. So it's been fantastic, and we actually have some artwork that we'll be donating very soon and auctioning very soon. We did a impromptu recorded episode of Sketchelmania when we were up in Deep River last weekend, 2 weekends ago, I guess, at the Deep River, Ontario, a little Comic-Con up there that they had, the Geek Fest. And it was a lot of fun. And then the other show that I belong to is called Things Are Getting Sketchy. And it was built originally off of the Big Country Comics kind of group. We wanted to have a little show to like showcase some of the new books and covers we had coming out. But the show ended up becoming more about showcasing artists. And, Stefan created the show almost in a response to the fact that we were all doing different shows to raise money for charities and to help different retailers and to help people's Kickstarters. And Stefan wanted to create a show that would actually help and benefit the artists themselves who are donating their time. So it was a pretty cool thing that he started. And so then you had collectors coming who are really keen to support the artists and creators directly. And we've had pretty awesome stuff happen with that. So it's become a nice little secondary source of income during, long lockouts and periods where there's no shows. And, big countries, there's always struggle selling comics online. But when there's no shows to sell them at either, it's a really tough hustle to keep variant covers coming out and keep new products coming out and connect with people. So yeah, the online show's been really all about that. And it's been a blast, and being able to hang out with people I haven't seen now in 4 and 5 years. Because I kind of stopped. The weird thing was I kind of stopped touring really internationally for a couple of years before the pandemic broke out. So it's really extended the amount of time that I haven't seen my friends in the States.
Oh, okay.
The creators down there. So it's been amazing to connect with them again. Another show that we're doing is also the Comic-Con Africa. My friends with the Art Chimp group, and I get together with a whole different batch of artists. We usually just tackle a subject, and those ones we just auction the artwork again for the artists themselves. But it allows us to connect with the people over in South Africa, for their Comic-Con that they have coming up and they're supporting. So,
cool.
so yeah, it's been really cool, man. I've been really lucky to be invited on these shows and work on different ones. I kind of want to have my own, where I do a little bit more kind of tutorial kind of stuff and talk a little bit more about art process and things like that. But we'll see what comes down the road. I got to get a little bit more handy with my technology first.
Well, you know what? I honestly look forward to it. I know when it comes to like a tutorial type show, David Finch, another local creator, does a similar thing.
Yeah, he's great. Oh man, he's so awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had the chance to catch some of his live shows where he comes on and he'll draw a character, and then that'll go on to his I think it's a big cartel as well.
Yeah.
His store online, and then he's also done like a how to draw series. So
Right.
absolutely, there is an avenue for it. And Mike, I think you could definitely do it because this Swamp Thing is looking absolutely crazy.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's fun to draw this stuff and not really have any plan. I mean, I've drawn this side profile of Swamp Thing 10 million times by now, but it's different every time I draw it. So it's Swamp Thing's really just been always a vehicle for me to kind of sort my head out. Mental health is an important thing to keep in touch with, and I have my ups and my downs like everyone does. And the Swamp Thing's a character that, for whatever reason, seems to show up when I need a little bit of comfort, or I need a little bit of just time away from drawing for other people and just draw something for myself. And it just gets me, because I'm drawing usually with a foreign object that doesn't have any kind of real art creating purpose. I end up with just exciting results that I can't predict, and then people like them. People tend to like these things, so I can keep on building and building. I could build a background in here. I could find a finer branch and do something with a finer branch. Like, I really enjoy this kind of sketching. It's a really good reset for my brain, and because there's a lot of tough stuff with comics, man. I've done every kind of job there is out there, not just in art, but like I've done a bit of retail and a bit of construction and a lot of digging in holes and trenches and doing that kind of labor. And I got to tell you, man, comics are the hardest. Like, comics are the hardest job I've ever had. It's like you don't get to really sleep too much. You kind of, especially if you're on a really tight schedule, you're constantly trying to solve a problem. You're constantly trying to eradicate an issue, find the best solution. It's hard, man. It's hard to do. Digging a hole is digging a hole, but like,
Oh, absolutely. Like, you know what? For a long time, I basically I helped build fences, and while it's physically tiring, mentally, right, you can kind of check out and dig a hole. It's not hard. What you're doing, a level of mental capacity to make these kinds of decisions, especially even if you're just doing it on the fly, but have it work. I imagine that's extremely exhausting.
It's it's one of those things. I had a friend of mine who's an instructor and just a brilliant illustrator. He once told me, treat every piece of artwork that you do, regardless of what it's for, big job, small job, huge budget, small budget, whatever it is, a tattoo for somebody, a doodle on a napkin, whatever it is, treat every piece of it like it could be a portfolio piece or the next big thing for you, because bad artwork will live forever and haunt you on the internet for all time. And about 10 years after he told me that, I reminded him of that. I was in the studio and I said, remember when you told me that? And he looked at me and he goes, man, I should have just said, be prepared to be haunted. Because the reality is you're always growing and expanding if you're doing this right. You're putting yourself into unsafe places with your art to challenge yourself and to grow. If you get kind of locked into doing the same thing over and over again, you'll stagnate and you'll lose the passion. And I think you need to kind of excite yourself now and then, try a different tool, try a different way of expressing a figure or a form. You know, you got to keep on growing and keeping it exciting. I think I had a larger point I was trying to make there, but I lost it in my ramble. Sorry.
No worries. It'll come back, I'm sure.
Yeah. But yeah, and it's so this kind of stuff's kind of fun. I'll post this up online, and someone will want to buy it, maybe or not. I don't know. I've just enjoyed hanging out with you and drawing this, so like I don't have any intention for this to buy a loaf of bread or
Well,
trade for a dozen eggs.
For sure. Well, you know what? I'll make sure to get a link from you where people can get it.
Yeah,
if
sure.
Someone can go watch the video, they can see how it was made, and then they can go online and buy it from you. And who knows, it'll maybe buy a couch or something crazy like that.
Yeah, it's been amazing. The kind of, well, it hasn't been amazing. It's been challenging, and it's been amazing to see the ability to pivot during change is key, and it's something I feel like I've been able. It's taken me 2 years, but I figured out a way to survive as a comic book artist without having the influx of income from a comic book event, Comic Cons and things like that. Change the business to go a little bit more online. And I've tried to connect people more like this way, and I feel like I can be weirdly more personal in these kinds of arrangements because I'm just making marks on a page and rambling like an old windbag, but I'm not having to shout over a video game machine that's set up too loud behind me at a Comic-Con or a screaming cosplayer group down the road or whatever, you know what I mean? It's nice to have the equipment. Shout out to Stefan from Things Are Getting Sketchy for hooking me up with a camera and a microphone. I feel like I gotta mention that every time I'm online because this guy really wants to get me online and have a Twitch channel and do all these cool things, and he's been a huge supporter in my career and just also in this new strange pandemic world we live in. So
absolutely. You know what? On that note, on Twitch, what I will tell you then, I don't know what kind of computer you've got, obviously, but how I record these is with a thing called OBS Studio.
Yep.
Oh, you're familiar. Okay, cool. That thing can broadcast to Twitch live. So this camera that you're filming on, this microphone, hook that into OBS, and you can just do a Twitch channel. You can sit here every day.
I'll tell you how useless I am. I remember going like one day, like, I'm going on Twitch today. I'm just going to go on Twitch. It's going to be awesome. I got a Twitch account. I got background banners made. I've got all the transition screens.
Oh, wow.
Going on Twitch. And then I went on Twitch, and I forgot about OBS. I forgot that you just can't open up Twitch and just go. Like, there's no, like go live button. You have to be on OBS. And I was just sitting there for an hour getting angrier and angrier and thought, I'm an idiot. Of course, I got to use the OBS. So what I have to do is learn how to use the OBS, and then I will definitely make more of an impact. I'd love to have a Twitch thing. I watched some Twitch stuff, and I'm always amazed at, just how awesome. I just love it. I just love watching people make stuff, and less into watching people play video games on Twitch, but that seems to be a really big part of Twitch.
Disproportionately.
That's a pretty amazing roster of things to see when you go on Twitch. It's like, wow, this is just like people playing video games and people at home watching.
Yep.
Kind of crazy. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, you know what? I have had you for almost a full hour, if not actually a little bit more, maybe. Okay, quick, easy question.
Sure.
Your Swamp Thing there.
Yeah.
I appreciate earlier you said you never know quite when something is finished. It feels like it's erring on the side of finished unless you're going to do a whole background. How much longer do you want to spend on that and with me?
Oh, I don't know, man. You know what? It's just a sort of a side profile of Swamp Thing. I could just add a couple of forms in the background or something. But I might even just crop it on this side and call it 11 by 17. It can be cropped a little bit closer. This is a huge piece of paper, so if I crop it here, it'll be 11 by 17, and I can call it done. Actually, maybe I'll add a couple of leaves or a couple of things. I always like to add maybe sometimes a little stray leaf or a stray branch or something like that, or a cluster of berries or something. He's just an amazing character to draw because you don't really have to care about anatomy. You don't have to care about getting the costume right. You just have to, I don't know. To me, there's a simple stoicism that is just a fun thing to try to capture with him. I never need to do high action poses with him. I can just keep it very, very quiet, and I appreciate that about the character for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
When you're drawing Conan, you have to draw the human form really, really well. You have to draw a built athlete, usually in some kind of a dynamic pose or something like that. And there's a lot more work involved with that kind of a drawing than Swamp Thing, which I have a basic set of guidelines that I kind of follow intuitively, and then I just let the brush or the random tool I'm drawing with decide that, because they all have their own character, they all have their own kind of voice, I guess, for lack of a better word. But yeah, I might even call that one done right there. I don't know.
Perfect. But, no, honestly, I think that looks fantastic.
I'll sign it. I'll sign it with this weird branch too, and we'll. Actually, you know what? If you want, tell you what, man, I've had a real pleasure hanging out with you, and I'll hang out as long as you want to. But I'll send this to you as a gift for having me on your show, because I don't know, you have my book, and I feel like you deserve to have a piece of original art too. So. Just send me your address in the chat after this, and I'll mail it off to you, man.
Thank you so very much. That would be amazing.
My pleasure. Let me get a better shot of it. I have a very big desk, and my arm for my camera isn't quite long enough, so I can't get like a straight, even shot on it.
Yeah.
But one day I'll upgrade one day.
Well, I will say I can see from the very top leaf on his head, just do about the part where it would start becoming his chest.
Yeah, bottom of the page is right there. So yeah. There's the ring bind at the top. So what I'll do is I'll shave about 3 inches off of that, and then it'll be nice 11 by 17, or I'll fill in the background or something. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir. Then you know what? I always like to end my interviews in the last 2 questions. The same 2 questions. So second last question. What are you reading right now, if anything?
Oh, what am I reading right now? Oh, man, I'm reading something awesome. I don't have it in front of me here. Dave Howlett is an amazing Canadian creator who also works at the Strange Adventures comic store from Halifax. He worked with Cal Johnson. They're out in Halifax. He's got a couple of stores out on the East Coast. And he's done this amazing comic book he's done all kinds of shorts and all kinds of short strip comics as well. But he's doing a full format comic book called The Makers, independently published. And it's kind of a fictionalized breakdown of what happened with the formation of Image Comics, like the top artists leaving the top companies. He's fictionalized their names, but he's done kind of a rough kind of a beautiful homage to each of the creators, and kind of tells a story about how that all went down. But then the story goes off into like a more comic book direction, where these characters are now kind of empowered in the same fashion of the characters that they created on the page. So it's kind of it turns into kind of a fantasy, or not really a fantasy, but more like a breaking of the fourth wall kind of thing, almost like where you're really reading what feels like a documentary at first, and then these alien beings come in and all of a sudden these creators who are really just replicas of Jim Lee and McFarlane and Liefeld and a few other people, but yeah, Dave Howlett is a brilliant guy, and he's even recreated letter columns and things that look like they would have in 1993, and the kind of letters that would be sent in response to different things. And that was such a huge part of the comic reading experience for me in the 80s and 90s. I got my letter published in Fantastic Four once.
Oh, no way.
I kind of fanboyed out when the Thing mutated into that spiky pineapple version, and he beats the crap out of the Hulk, and I'm a huge Ben Grimm mark. So, and I was a huge Hulk guy too, but the fact that the Thing was stronger now, he was stronger than the Hulk, and he kicked the Hulk's ass, and I wrote a fanboy letter in, and they printed it, and it makes me howl every time I read it, because I was 14, but I probably came across like an 8-year-old because I was just so
excited,
wrapped up in the fandom of it. You know what I mean? It was kind of awesome. So yeah, issue 3, I want to say it was issue 326 or 313 of Fantastic Four. Johnny Storm's on the cover and the Silver Surfer's on the cover. Yeah, and young Mike Rooth is in the back.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah, so I'm reading that, and I've been reading honestly, I've been rereading some older stuff. I've been reading the old Swamp Thing stuff. I'm reading the new Swamp Thing stuff. I'm enjoying that, the Ram V and Mike Perkins run. That's kind of the only new comic I'm reading right now, other than the stuff I pick up from some indie creators. Like I'll read anything that Davis Dewsbury writes, the creator of Auric. Him and Andrew got Auric's a character that I created actually, but they've made the comic and they've brought him to life with a real real story and a real comic. I'm sure you know Andrew Thomas. Yeah. I'm trying to think of what else I'm reading. I love Andrew McLean's Headlopper from Image Comics.
Oh, that book is so good.
Love that book. I'm behind. I think I've missed the last issue. It's a quarterly book, so it's one of those things where if you miss it, I might have to wait and get the collected version. But yeah, I love that book. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'll read. I like what Ablaze is doing with Conan with the Sumerian books. I'm a little biased because I've done a few covers for that series as well. But yeah, I'm mostly reading older stuff, to be honest with you. I've been reading the Darwin Cook Parker series.
Oh,
they're so good, man. They bring tears to my eyes. The way he handles tension and light and shadow on some of these pages. Like I am humbled by the man's work. He really is something else. What a treasure he was in Canada. And to read those books has just been amazing. I'm really thankful to Callum Johnson, The Strange Adventures, for hooking me up with those books. And also John Layman and Nick Bradshaw's Bermuda from IDW was a brilliant book. It's out in trade paperback. It's worth grabbing if you haven't checked it out. Nick's work is sensational. It's a fun little pirate story that takes place in the Bermuda Triangle. And John Layman's a wicked writer, just a brilliant writer. So they've told a really cool story with that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm kind of rambling, I guess. Obviously, The Last Ronin, I've been reading that. That's the only thing. It's only 5 issues that took 2 years to come out, but it's been enjoyable every moment of it. So
perfect. Well, I'm glad you're liking it. And those are some amazing recommendations. I'll make sure we have links down below for everyone to read. My last question then is very simply, what do you want your fans to know?
What do I want my fans to know?
Yeah.
I want my fans to know that I appreciate them. The fact that I even have fans is something that never goes unnoticed by me. I find the word strange, but I'm also, I'm humbled by it. I'm amazed to meet people when I get to meet them that are there because they love my work. It's just an amazing feeling. So I want them to know that I love and appreciate them all. Want them to know that I might not be on social media quite as much in the coming months just because I'm going into a very serious grind of creation, getting the 3rd issue of Dodge wrapped up and ready to ship out, and then also the 4th issue. I got some pretty exciting cover opportunities coming up with Big Country Comics, and a lot of these things, the tag show, the Things Are Getting Sketchy show, has actually come to an end temporarily over the summer. So my schedule's opened up a little bit in terms of being able to get some more work done, but it's going to be all kind of quiet studio work, and I can't share a lot of it because it's all stuff that's coming out in the future. So if I'm a little bit quiet in the coming months, that's why, but you can reach out to me anytime. My website's not been updated in probably 2 years, but you can reach out at mike@mikeruth.com. You can also follow me on Instagram, Uncouth Ruth, where I post most of my stuff. And then, if you want to get my comics, that's something I want y'all to know. If you want to get the comics I've done covers for, and I've been blessed to have been able to do over 30 in the past year for Big Country Comics and other retailers, go to bigcountrycomics.com or bigcountrycomics.ca in Canada and check out all the amazing books they have, man, and support them. They make the things I'm doing in my life possible, a lot of them, and they've given me some amazing opportunities. A lot of people are more interested in supporting a creator directly, but in a case where I've got to work so closely with Big Country Comics. Supporting them is supporting me directly, and so I encourage you to go and check out their awesome stuff, and support your local retailer as well. You know, keep comics alive, keep on reading comics, and they'll keep on coming out. Basically, yeah.
Beautiful.
That's about it. That's about all I really got to say. Yeah, be kind to each other and be safe. Be good. Try to be good.
Mr. Mike Rooth, I think that is absolutely amazing. Thank you for that, and thank you for taking the time to come on the show and draw an amazing Swamp Thing.
Oh, hey, my pleasure, Konrad. It's a real joy to be here and hang out with you. I know we've been trying to line this up for a while. I saw you before the pandemic, and I saw you briefly was it the one in March, or was it the one? I think I saw you in March and in the special edition in October, right? So I'm glad we were able to make this happen, man. I'd love to come back and chat with you anytime.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? I will be sure if you've got something fun going on you want to share, let me know and we'll have you on. Because you're a blast. Thank you again.
Oh, cheers, man.
And for the folks out there in YouTube land, as always, check out all the links down below for Mike's store, Mike's social media, how you can support him, as well as Big Country Comics. And we'll catch you next time.
Golden age to present, digest to oversize. Never miss new comic day, yeah, no surprise. So where's my no prize? Check the letter columns. Can't find issue 2? Collector problems, cliffhangers, mysteries, you need answers. When did Batman become Green Lantern? I get it, true believer, not lying. Always up for an awesome summer crossover tie-in.